Live here, LENSEC Live. What's your perspective? Radio show slash television, and I'm excited to welcome the program first. My co-host Keith Harris, Director of Marketing here at LENSEC and Communications. Keith,
Good
how
morning.
are you? And we just continue to have these really great conversations with really good guests.
Oh yeah, things are going well here. We're rocking right along. Happy to have Jake Parker from the Security Industry Association along with us today.
Yeah, so we're excited to welcome Jake Partner from the Partner Alliance for Safer Schools, and also Sia. Jake, thanks for stopping by. What's your perspective?
Thank you.
All right, so let's kind of hit it off by learning a little bit more about Jake, what his responsibilities are with, first of all, SIA and then the pass.
Sure. So I'm wearing two hats today. One is I'm currently the Senior Director of Government Affairs with the Security Industry Association. We're a trade association that represents about 1,000 security solutions providers. And I work in government affairs. It heads up our legislative and regulatory initiatives, and also is long time worked for a long time on school safety issues as far as increasing grant funding available for those purposes.
Very, very interesting.
And with PASS, I'm a member of the board of the Partner Alliance for Safer Schools. That is an organization that SIA co-founded with several other organizations.
And I think, Jake, you see the need for the past, which we've talked about in so many different broadcasts that I've been able to interview a lot of your people that are involved in this, because again, schools need to have specific guidelines. There are guidelines available, but something that's available to them and having the resources that you have at your fingertips with the pass.
Yeah, I'm really proud of what it's been able to achieve so far. And just, I apologize if I'm duplicating what some of your guests may have talked about, but basically, this really came together after the attacks on Sandy Hook Elementary a number of years ago, and our industry realized that there wasn't an established set of guidelines that would help school administrators figure out what their security posture is in a real coordinated way, and then figure out where they need to make needed improvements. And so they came together as a way initially for industry to provide uniform guidance. And they produced the first guidelines for safety and security guidelines for K-12 schools back in 2015. But what we've done more recently is really expand and update that guidance about a year and a half ago. And with the input additionally of many other organizations involved in the school safety spectrum. And so as of today, this is the past K-12 school security guidelines is really the most recognized information about how to secure schools facilities that's out there, and the most comprehensive.
We had Guy Grace on back in, I believe it was May, if I'm not mistaken, and he did a great job kind of telling us what the current situations are in schools and gave us some highlights looking towards new guidelines that will be coming. But PASS really has done a great job of presenting some good information, like as you said, for school administrators, but also for the security industry as a whole. There's many integrators who know a lot about security, but they might not know as much about schools. And so these guidelines really help them get focused and point towards the right things that they can do to engage with their school customers.
That's a great point. That's definitely one of the objectives here, is to get industry kind of on the same page. And as you said, security has some basic tenets, is applied anywhere, but in the K-12 setting, there's really specific considerations that need to be made. And so that's the idea here, is to help industry coalesce around a set of guidelines specific for that implementation.
How many, because we're going to talk about now the question about the new guidelines that are being written as we speak, how many different editions of guidelines have you guys had so far for the past since its inception?
So right now, what we have on our website that's available for free, anyone to download, is version 4. And that was done about 18 months ago. We're getting ready to update with version 5 here within the next 4 weeks. We'll be releasing that. which is really kind of an incremental update. But one thing we're doing is including, we're linking out to a number of really good resources we recommend from other organizations we're working with, for example, in the school safety space, like the National School Boards Association, the School Psychologists Association, and others. But we've chosen to make the guidelines really specific to facility security, kind of staying in that lane. But we're also including some more information about code compliance, which may vary by state and jurisdiction to help folks navigate that. And probably the biggest, and then one other thing we're doing, I'm sorry, is include some example documents of various types of school safety plans that can be used to create new ones. So that's something we didn't have before. But probably the biggest difference is we are including an emerging technology section because, I think overall we're trying to present a consensus view of what needs to happen in K-12 school security in the tiered way that we talked about before. So for that reason, fairly conservative, about emerging technology. But at the same time, everyone has to plan ahead for the future. And there's a lot of questions that we've encountered about some school security technologies that I think really need to be addressed looking forward. So we've included a new emerging technology section, and it talks about some things where there's been a lot of interest from school safety professionals. For example, implementing vape detection technology. I know it's a huge problem in high schools around the country. There's a problem with vaping. And then just with the COVID-19 response and the reopening of schools, which is really all over the map in the country right now as far as the pace of that. Some thermal imaging cameras have been something that people have talked about, and other ways of screening for temperature. It's very challenging to implement that correctly. We'll include some information on that. And then also passive weapons detection, something I'm actually pretty excited about, the possibility of being able to screen for contraband and for dangerous articles that might be brought into the school in a very non-invasive way, in a way that doesn't impede flow in and out. And I think that's really promising technology. And then lastly, we've heard a lot this year about facial recognition, and that's certainly an emerging security technology that there's interest in as far as protecting K-12 campuses.
Kind of going into them, talking about those guidelines is very interesting. When do you expect them to launch?
I think it'll be in the next month. I can't give you a specific date, but hopefully at the beginning of September, we'll have that ready to go.
All right, fantastic. One of the other things you're trying to do with the pass is when we connected about, I guess it's been like 14 to 16 months ago. You were slowly but surely looking at, well, we created these guidelines, but what about all the security people in the security industry? How can they get actively involved in this? Because this is a non-for-profit. This is not a profit business. You're providing all these guidelines for free and want to get it to as many schools as possible and have your consultants go out to as many schools as possible. You need backing from the security industry to help in specific projects or certain things. So last year you started the process of creating a program for the industry, right? Industry program to be involved in the pass.
Yeah, and I'll just provide you an update too. Like in July, we PASS became a 501c3, so an independent organization. Prior, it was a coalition of associations and other groups. And so its status as an independent organization has been more formalized now. And then also that gives us the opportunity to create a more structured PASS partner program, which is something we've talked a lot with industry about in recent months, but we're going to be formalizing that and rolling it out in the fall. And what that will allow us to do is allow industry to embrace the guidelines, use them to work with schools in their interactions with customers. And we know already that's occurred, but we're doing that in a more formalized way now, where they'll be real specific about what we're providing to you as far as training opportunities. That's going to be a big push. Help train your personnel on how to use this resource, and then work with your customers. And so we've already seen significant buy-in to the training and the use of the guidelines from For example, Johnson Controls, one of the biggest security integrators in the country, working in K-12, and one of the largest manufacturers in the Legion, have done the same. And we're going to be rolling that out for other folks in the industry as well.
That's great news. Training is always key. We talk about it a lot at LENSEC, not only with our product and our partners, but also among our own staff to get trained up and to know more about the security industry. There's so much depth involved there, and especially when you talk about understanding what schools are looking for, I'm sure there's a lot to learn.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the other thing. So we've gotten a lot of feedback from folks that have downloaded the guidelines, and I'll just say we've had over 4,000 people, individuals, download this resource just in the last 18 months. And we're seeing who the typical people are that are downloading it. These are principals, these are administrators, folks that are likely be responsible for security in their schools, even if they're not security experts. And so one thing we've also heard from them is, are you able to help us, in the process of applying these to our situation? And so that's another thing we're planning to roll out in 2021 is the ability to send some of our experts that are on our advisory committee out to do those types of activities in school districts.
What are some of the best practices that school administrators are learning from the guidelines? What sparks their interest, or what are they most engaged with?
I think what's appealing is that it's a very easily understandable framework for looking at your facilities. You can actually take the checklist that goes along with the past guidelines and look at your, a non-trained person can go look at your buildings and look at information about the systems you have and stuff like that, and figure out where you're at on this continuum of school security is by tier. And I think that's one of the appeals. And I think there is, prior to this, there was really a lack of infrastructure specific information about what you should be looking for in evaluation. There's other ways to, and of course we recommend having risk assessments done, of course, as part of this process. But I think often what you're left with is just, your local law enforcement going in and walking around your buildings and, saying, well, maybe you need a camera there or something, which is helpful. And, it's good in when you don't have other options. But I think that what we're hoping to offer is more comprehensive information, something you could use to work with local integrators in your area to tailor a plan for you, maybe not just about what you're doing this year, but over the next couple of years where you want to be.
What are your thoughts of opening schools? Again, we're seeing a variety of ways that are being opened in Pennsylvania. They're going to be masks the entire time, hybrid in specific ages, and every day in others. I think that what Pennsylvania is doing is a model that should be done for all of the United States, in the fact that, yes, we're going to look at our population. We're going to look at hybrid versus not hybrid. Like, it was very interesting. I spoke to a higher up in teachers union, and she basically brought up the thing that certain kids need to be taught 5 days a week in the school, and those are special needs kids. There are specific people that have certain issues. They need to be, if the school is opened up. So, but looking at age and everything, I think that's a better model than just saying, okay, guys, just go out and start school up, because we just don't know what's going to happen in the next couple of weeks as we're seeing feedback coming through. What are you seeing on your end in these conversations?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I agree with you. I think a hybrid approach makes a lot of sense. I mean, sure, it's harder to implement that way, but we're in uncharted territory here. I mean, as far as this pandemic, and something we haven't seen worldwide in over 100 years. It's really a crazy situation. But I will say that, and I know this is probably hard to do, but in a situation where you've got your facility pretty much unoccupied for the next couple of weeks, couple months, maybe longer, depending on the situation, it's definitely a good time to evaluate your facility safety and security measures, looking at reopening and return, because normally a lot of work has to be squeezed into the summer, that you need to do before students come back. And now you've got more time And so hopefully there's an opportunity there to take a closer look at all this in the meantime.
Getting the kids back into school is, I think, on everyone's mind. Then it makes it difficult on everybody. It makes it difficult on the teachers trying to understand how kids are getting their work done. It makes it difficult on the parents, and it certainly isn't easy on the kids. When you're talking about monitoring and making sure that guidelines and rules are followed, you can leverage your security tools for operational use in that regard. How do you see schools being able to do that as they start to bring kids back in?
Yeah, there's been a lot of it. Definitely a lot of talk about, online security needs, and making sure that, a lot of students are accessing their schoolwork in their classrooms through, various types of technology. And I think that's obviously the cybersecurity concerns there is a huge issue. Just, in Virginia, this spring, I remember, and this is in our area, there was an issue with kind of people dropping, like Zoom bombing their classes, and just a lot of weird things that were going on, where you need to protect kids from that element. So I think that's probably been the biggest focus.
But even operationally, schools can monitor activities in and around their campuses as people come back into play on campuses. So they might be able to do, for example, we've talked on this show previously about contact tracing for tracking activity through a building, using security tools as an operational method as opposed to just your standard security method. So I think that's a way that schools could potentially leverage some tools that they already have in place to be able to keep people where they need to be at the right times.
Absolutely.
Well, Jake, I appreciate you coming by. It was such jam-packed with such great information. People, remember, like and share this everywhere you can on any of our social media platforms and different places, because this is a great resource, especially the PASS, to check it out. So where can we go? Best information, Jake, on the website for PASS.
So passk12.org. Just visit our site and you can download both the checklist and the guidance for free. There's also some other information on there that would be helpful to you as well, that we posted on some emerging issues.
Fantastic. And that's one awesome place. And then where can we learn about SIA as well?
Securityindustry.org to learn more about SI and what we do.
So you're a busy guy, Jake. I appreciate coming on, but you're a great resource, you and Kara, and we're working on a lot of interesting guests involved with SIA for What's Your Perspective and also my syndication. So there's a lot of awesome things coming up. And Keith, anything to add with the awesome information Jake provided for us today?
Just make sure you go check out the guidelines. We also have them on our website, lensec.com, under the education vertical market. And we'll be updating those as the new guidelines come out. But the PASS guidelines, Partner Alliance for Safer Schools, are a really good tool that school administrators and people within the security industry can go to find out how to engage with your school and how to leverage the best security solutions that are out there, and scale those to your specific needs. So I really do recommend it. Find those at passk12.org.
Fantastic. Thank you, Keith, again. Thank you, Jake. And everyone needs to go to lensec.com/live and check out all of our other live broadcasts and all the different social media channels at LENSEC. You can figure out how to follow us in all those places. Appreciate, again, everyone watching What's Your Perspective and listening to What's Your Perspective. And take care, and we'll be talking very soon.
Thanks for the opportunity.